Hello, how are you? Today I've prepared a list for you of foods that people with diabetes should not eat at night. Many people living with diabetes worry about this time of day because it's a moment that can really affect your entire night. It can increase your chances of having hypoglycemia, which is low blood sugar, or it can cause hyperglycemia, which is high blood sugar. And during the night, everything is much more complicated because you're not going to wake up in the middle of the night to keep checking your blood sugar to see how your glucose levels are. So it's very important that you eat a balanced diet and avoid certain foods that can harm this control. I'm going to tell you which foods you should avoid. Stay with me until the end because you won't want to miss them. If you love videos about nutrition, health, and fitness, you're going to love this channel. So go ahead and subscribe. Remember to turn on the notification bell to get updates. I have new videos every day, including great recipes for people living with diabetes. You won't want to miss them. Now let's start with our list of foods that should be avoided at night by people with diabetes. So if you like these lists of the best and worst foods for people living with diabetes, recipes and content on this diabetes topic, like the video, because that way I'll know you enjoyed it and I'll make more videos and bring more content like this for you. And for those of you living with diabetes, tell me down below, what do you eat at night that raises your blood sugar or makes it drop too low, that throws you off balance in some way? What can't you eat at night because it doesn't work for you and throws everything out of whack? I'd love to see your answer here. Let's see if it matches any of the things I brought up. So let's get started. This question of what to eat at night is really important because what we eat before going to bed can actually contribute to nighttime hyperglycemia. In other words, it can cause your blood sugar to be high during the night. And since you usually don't wake up during the night, you're not going to be checking your blood sugar levels during those early morning hours. So if you go to bed at 11 p.m. and wake up at 7 a.m., you'll spend 8 hours without monitoring your blood glucoses. And if you eat something that raises it a lot before bed, you won't be able to correct it during the night. If you use insulin, you're not going to take insulin in the middle of the night, and there's no way for you to exercise to try to compensate for this during the night. So it's very important that you avoid foods that significantly raise your blood sugar. Of course, in the case of type 1 diabetics, you have to take into account that some foods can also cause a rebound effect and lead to hypoglycemia at this time, because type 1 diabetics administer insulin themselves, so you really need to be more careful. So I've listed here some foods for you to avoid because they can harm your blood sugar at this time. The very first food on our list today is pizza. You should be very careful about eating pizza, especially close to bedtime, because pizza is actually one of the very worst foods for people living with diabetes, especially if it is eaten at night. Pizza usually has a very high concentration of carbohydrates and also a high amount of saturated fats because it typically contains a lot of cheese, ham, sausage, pork, processed meats, as well as many other ingredients that are heavier and fattier. In particular, these can include various types of meats and cheeses. So what ends up happening is what we call a double wave, because in addition to having a very large amount of carbohydrates, you also have a very large amount of fat that keeps those high carbohydrate levels elevated for a long time. So it's almost as if your body is getting a continuous infusion of carbohydrates, and those high levels persist for longer. Therefore, eating pizza and then going to sleep right afterwards can be very harmful for you. Of course, there are some exceptions. You can make your own healthy pizza at home, a low-carb pizza, a more balanced, more nutritious pizza. I have some healthy pizza recipes here on the channel that can help you, and depending on the amount of carbohydrates and the toppings you use, they can definitely be eaten at night. So it's always a matter of balancing our diet. Now, avoid buying pizza from the supermarket or pizzerias because these pizzas at night can really harm your blood sugar levels. Another food on our list to avoid consuming, especially at night, is white pasta, because pasta in reality is basically made of white refined wheat flour. So its glycemic index is very high and the amount of carbohydrates is very large. Pasta behaves in our body as if it were sugar because it will be metabolized and absorbed in the form of glucose, and its absorption is very fast. So it actually turns into glucose and has a role, an impact very similar to glucose on our blood and our metabolism. So eating white pasta before going to bed will cause that same problem. And another interesting detail, which I forgot to mention but is also worth remembering, is that when glucose levels are elevated during the night, you will feel a greater urge to urinate at night in an attempt to balance it out, so you will wake up more often. Your night will be worse and your sleep quality will be poorer. So having good blood glucose levels during the night will also improve your overall sleep quality, helping to prevent you from waking up to urinate. So going back to pasta, if you want to eat pasta at night, one option is to choose whole wheat pasta in a controlled portion. Because just because it's whole wheat doesn't mean you can eat a lot. A whole grain food is not considered a low-carb food, so you still need to carefully control the amount you eat and always prefer lighter sauces such as tomato sauce, bolognese sauce made with leaner meat, or even a vegetable-based sauce, which can be an interesting and healthy option. Or you can make a low-carb pasta. Remember that I have some recipes here on the channel, like cabbage noodles that look like tagliatelle and a zucchini noodle recipe. You can make several different recipes and I'll leave them down below in the description for you. Alcoholic beverages are also very problematic when you consume them before going to bed. I included them on this list because there are people who don't usually drink alcohol on a daily basis, but when they do, it's precisely before bed to relax, to sleep better. There's still that idea that alcohol will help you relax, that it will make things better, that you'll feel calmer and sleep better. That's not true. We already know that alcohol may help you fall asleep more easily, but it will also make you wake up more often during the night. And for those living with diabetes, there are even bigger problems related to this because alcoholic beverages usually have a large amount of hidden carbohydrates. When we think about beer, cocktails, or liqueurs, these are drinks that often also contain sugar. But even if it's a distilled drink like vodka, gin, or whiskey, which have less carbohydrate, the alcohol itself can still cause hypoglycemia. So this can be dangerous for people with diabetes, especially at night. And in the case of drinks with added sugar, like beer, liqueurs, or cocktails, they will first cause hyperglycemia, and then, depending on the amount of alcohol you consume and need to metabolize, they can cause hypoglycemia. So alcohol-induced hypoglycemia happens, and it's very common to see it in younger people who don't have limits when drinking or who go to a party or a barbecue and get carried away. Everyone knows someone who has had alcohol poisoning because they drank too much at once and weren't used to it. This happens to healthy people, but only with a large amount of alcohol. But for those who are diabetic, extra caution is needed because the risk of alcohol-induced hypoglycemia is higher. So really, you have to drink in moderation. If you can, you should avoid alcoholic beverages as much as possible. Be careful with packaged snacks such as potato chips, crunchy snacks, peanuts with a crunchy coating, salty crackers, and similar salty treats. All of these packaged snacks are very high in carbohydrates, very high in unhealthy fats, usually trans fats and saturated fats, high in cholesterol and high in salt. And on top of all that, it's very easy to lose track of how much you're eating and end up overindulging. So ideally, you should avoid eating these processed snacks. I have a playlist of healthy snacks here on the channel, and they can be interesting options for you to try. In fact, there are lots of tasty low-carb recipes there, and I'll leave the link down below in the description. Be careful also with breaded and fried foods. I put them in different categories because they're not necessarily processed foods. You might want to eat breaded chicken that you make at home. It's homemade, but it's still breaded and fried. Any kind of fried food like fried pork or any other type of food you fry will always be worse at night for people living with diabetes. That's because if in the same meal you ate rice, potatoes, pasta, or anything that raises your blood sugar, the amount of fat will keep that elevated glucose level higher for a longer period of time. So we already know that fried foods are bad for cardiovascular health, and people living with diabetes need to be careful because the risk of cardiovascular diseases is increased when diabetes is not well controlled. Therefore, consuming as little fried food and foods rich in trans and saturated fats as possible is also very important. Also, be careful at this time of night with sweets and desserts that are rich in sugar and flour. So be very cautious because consuming these can have a big impact on your night. And obviously, we already know that out of everything we consume, sugar is what impacts blood glucose the most. And flour, since it behaves like sugar in our bodies, does the same thing. So be careful with ice cream, chocolate, candy, sweets, cake, flan, and all those things that many people eat as dessert. There are people who love dessert and just can't give it up. So remember that there are low-carb desserts without sugar or added flour that you can have instead. And also you can retrain your palate and have a tea that can help control that craving a bit. For example, an apple and cinnamon tea is already sweet and can help curb that desire. A hibiscus tea can help you as well. In addition to that, it also helps improve metabolism and reduce insulin resistance. So I'm going to leave a playlist of healthy dessert recipes down below, which might help, and a playlist of healthy teas, which can also inspire you and add more variety to your daily routine. Let me know down below which of these foods surprised you the most and which one you already knew would raise your blood sugar because you've noticed it does in your case. I'd love to see your comment. Like the video because that really helps me out, and share it with anyone who would enjoy it or who needs it. Let's work together to grow this chain of good, which is what I want for this channel. See you next time. Bye.